it's Marissa here with Little House Living. I have had some requests to show our grocery hauls, but right now we are doing a pantry challenge, so I don't have really anything to show you. I will get stuff from our bulk foods company in a couple weeks, so I will show you what we get when I get that. But I thought it would be fun in the meantime to go through my canned goods and kind of show you what I have for that. The canned goods is a big thing that we try to use during our pantry challenge month. I just don't like to store them longer than 3 years, so we try to use up the oldest stuff. So I'm going to go through my shelves and show you everything that we have here and where I kind of keep the extras, because this is in my pantry but it doesn't fit everything that we have. So come along with me and I will show you what we have in our home canned shelves. Okay, so I'm going to apologize in advance. These are not organized shelves and they are not the cleanest. My pantry is in some major need of a makeover, but I am waiting for some new containers to come in. However, you can definitely see what we have in here. So let me back up just a little bit. So this is one wall in our pantry. I have 6 shelves that my husband specifically made for canned goods. They fit 2 jars deep, and then I have different shelves for different size jars. So the quart jars fit the best on the bottom and on the second shelf, and then pint jars on the next 3 shelves, and then the top shelf way up there has the jelly jar sizes on it. So not sure if I can get up there. I don't know where my ladder is today, but all of this is jelly up here. I don't think I have any jelly from this year. This is all last year's jelly. So we've got, this is a wild raspberry jelly that we canned only a couple jars of. This year we picked wild raspberries out in the woods, and so we save those for special occasions just because it's a fun memory to remember. But we're not trying to use these up. These are from this year, so that is a newer one. I have a whole bunch of this grape jelly that I canned last year. My marker is just wiping off, I don't know why. But this is some grape jelly. Somebody gave us a whole bunch of Concord style grapes. And so I made, I think, about 55 jars of jelly. So we're still using that, but it was awesome that we had so much because I didn't can any grape jelly this past year. So we have lots of grape jelly. I think this one is oh, this is just strawberry sauce, so I didn't add any pectin to this, but you can see it's super thick. So we could use it for jelly if we wanted to. Otherwise, we use it to top like pancakes and things like that. So, and then over here, I have, this is actually not jelly. This is a rhubarb barbecue sauce that I made. It's really good, except I feel like I went a little bit overboard on the ginger, and so it's pretty strong. Other than that, like, I think I would make it again, but it's pretty strong for barbecue sauce, so it's not really the kids' favorite, and it can kind of be overpowering depending on what we're having. And then down here at the end, I have some dill relish. I think this is, oh, this is still last year's. So I put last year's dill relish. I think I have about 8 or 9 jars to use up. I did dill relish again this year, but it's not in this pantry, it's in a different one. So this is the relish we need to use still. We use that on mostly hamburgers, but just depends on what we're having. So then on this shelf, I think this is this year. So like I said, we're not really trying to use up this year's stuff unless we really need it. This plum sauce I made this year, I got a hold of some excess plums from our co-op, and so I made this sauce. I thought it'd be really fun to do on like a meat, like more like a beef or something. I think I used an actual, like, this isn't just pureed plums. I think I used a recipe for this in the Ball Blue book to can this up, but I just canned a couple jars of that. This is the tomato basil. I made this 2 years ago. I don't really like to can tomato products that are too specific because we use them for such a wide range of things. So this is just a tomato basil sauce. Again, the recipe is in the Ball Blue Book. This one got a little bit thin, but I use this for spaghetti. I use it for pizza sauce. Whatever we need a tomato sauce for, that's what I use that for. That's what all of those are. So I didn't can any of that this year at all, so we won't try to use all of that, but we'll use up some more of it. And then here, okay, this is something I canned 2 years ago, and I don't like it, so it's been sitting in here. This is a pear mincemeat. It's kind of just pears and raisins, and I thought it'd be really good for like a pie filling, but it's just not my favorite thing. I'm not sure why. The flavor is just a little off to me. So we have several jars of that, and I need to either use it up or find another home for it of someone that will use it. But I think this is probably all that's left from this year. All right, so up next here we have some peach puree. I ended up having a ton of peaches this year, so I made a bunch of extra peach puree. We actually use this to make barbecue sauce. So we use a lot of it pureed like this. Otherwise, you could use it in a smoothie or something. But this is stuff that was canned up this year, so I probably won't be using it up during the pantry challenge unless we need it. Let's see what we got back here. So salsa. I think this whole area right here is salsa. Not sure what. That's some extra jelly that's not supposed to be there. This is salsa. I did both a medium and a mild. You'll have to excuse the sawdust. We added some more shelves in here and they got a little sawdusty, but this is a small part of my salsa stash. I didn't make any new salsa this year because I made so much last year, and so we do go through it, especially when we have tacos and stuff, but we don't eat a ton of it, so this will definitely last us throughout the rest of this year and probably until I can make some more later this year in about August or so. So like I said, I think that there's more salsa somewhere in my house. I feel like we put away more, but this is a pretty large stash here. This is one jar that I think I have left with the zucchini pineapple. It's okay. I put in half of the sugar that the recipe calls for, and we still felt like it was more than sweet. It does sort of taste like pineapple, but I've noticed that over time it like disintegrates in the jar, so it's not super great anymore. So that will probably end up in the chicken bucket. These are just some jars of broth. I usually don't keep a ton of broth canned up and on hand because I mostly store my broth in the freezer, but I just have this really small amount just in case we would need some that was shelf stable. So I don't intend on using that up during the pantry challenge, but it's here if we need it. All right, down to this shelf. So this is some pickled asparagus that I made 2 years ago, and I really thought that we were going to love it because we love pickled beans, and the texture is really good, but I don't know, the flavor is a little bit off. Even though we love asparagus, it's not my favorite thing, but we do have quite a few jars of this left, so we're going to try to use this up during the pantry challenge and get it out of the pantry, but I probably won't make it again. It was a cool idea. I had a ton of asparagus. I needed something to do with it, but it just wasn't something that we grabbed a lot of. Okay, had to take a little moment break and run outside quick for something. It still hasn't warmed up. It was -12 this morning, and we still haven't gotten above 10, so it's a little chilly and I'm a little winded, but back to the pantry. All right, so here we have a couple jars of ketchup. I canned about 50 pints of ketchup this year. I've never canned ketchup before, but my kids eat a lot of it, so I wanted to can. I figured we use about at least 1 jar a week, and so I wanted enough for a whole month. I just have a couple in my pantry here. The rest I have in a different storage area until we need to refill the shelf. It came, some of it is a little bit runny, some of it's a little bit thicker. I'm not sure if this was like more from the top of the stock pot than the bottom. But what I do with this runny stuff is I just run it through a strainer when I take it out, and then it makes it really nice and thick. And the kids don't seem to mind either way. They just love ketchup. So I'm really glad that I made that this year. All right, here we've got, this is some cinnamon applesauce. I make applesauce every year off of the apples that I get from my mom's apple tree, and we really like it to have with meals as just a side dish. It just is super easy to get out. I don't even warm it up or anything. We just put it on the table, put it in some bowls, and eat it. We really like the cinnamon applesauce, so all the applesauce I make is cinnamon. And you can kind of see that's why it's a little bit of a brown color. This is stuff from 2 years ago, so we'll try to eat this stuff up during our pantry challenge. I think I canned maybe about 30 more pints this year, so we have plenty to last us into next year. I'm not too worried about it. And I apologize for my bags sitting on top here. We recently got a freeze dryer, and I don't have like good storage set up for it yet, so I've just been shoving the bags on top of my canned goods, which isn't the greatest, but it works for the moment. So this is some more jelly that should be up on the top shelf. And these are jars of apricots. I had a ton of apricots this year and didn't want to make preserves out of all of them, so I just canned some of them whole. I guess I'll admit we haven't really been grabbing for them very much yet this winter, but we definitely should because they look really good. They siphoned a little bit, but they're still okay. So those are just plain apricots. And this year, more jelly. I don't know why, there's a whole bunch of jelly on this shelf. It shouldn't be down here, it should be up on the top. But here's more apricots. And then we've got, this is some corn. I did up 2 years ago. We don't mind the canned corn versus having it frozen. The only problem is the corn that I canned was a little bit overripe, so it was a little bit dried out. This is cream corn, that's why it looks a little bit different. So it's not our favorite, especially not the cream corn for some reason. We have used a lot. I think this is all that's left of what we had. And I did a ton of corn, so this is really pretty good. But at this point, I have a feeling some of this will be going for chicken food, which is okay. But we always need food for the chickens too. So, all right, down to this shelf. Let's see, I've been using a lot from this area, so it's empty at the moment. But this area I have some blueberries and I have some cherries canned in pints, and these are from 2 years ago. So we've been working on eating these up. The canned blueberries, we use a lot. We love those for putting on pancakes as just a syrup. I just warm up the entire jar on the stove and then just add a little bit of thickener, and the kids eat it as their pancake syrup. And then the cherries I haven't found as much use for. I had gotten such a good deal, I just had to do something with them. But it turns out that we kind of like them frozen better than we like them canned. I might try freeze drying some this year since I have that now, and see if we like those better. But I definitely need to find a use for these so we can use up the jars of cherries that we have from a couple years ago. And then here we have carrots. It's crazy how different batches of carrots can look different. These are all from 2 years ago. I went really crazy with canning the carrots, and then after I did it, I realized that they're just not really our favorite thing. They're fine to add to soups and stuff, but usually when I make soup, I let it simmer for a couple hours on the stove, so these aren't something that I really want to add to that unless I want to puree them in the soup. Otherwise, they're just really super mushy by the time they're done. So we haven't really found a ton of use for these. I have pureed them up and just kind of mixed them in random things to hide them. And we don't even know that we're eating them, but I probably won't be canning carrots again unless I absolutely have to. Now that we have the root cellar, I really have no need to have canned carrots and take up my shelves with those because they do really good in the root cellar. So we just need to use these up during our pantry challenge or in the spring, and we can be done with the canned carrots. Okay, this section actually got taken over by some of my dehydrated stuff. Obviously this is not canned, but this is a bunch of dehydrated zucchini that I did this summer. I dehydrate them in shreds in my dehydrator, and then I do the vacuum seal thing. Usually that jar is missing its little thing, but usually I put those little like silica packet things in the jars too, just to make sure like that the moisture is all out, just in case there's any left in there. But I use that quite a bit actually. I like it way better than the stuff in the freezer because it's shelf stable, so I don't have to take up freezer space with it. And I do have a blog post on making this dried zucchini, so I'll make sure that I link that in the comments section so you can check it out if you want to take up less freezer space with your zucchini this next year. I highly recommend doing this. Okay, here is my one sad little jar of pickled peppers that I made before the hornworms ate all of my peppers this year in the garden. I was really hoping to make a lot of this. I thought that the kids would really love it on like pizza and stuff. And we just have this one special jar, so I'm not sure when it's gonna get used yet. And then these are some jars of oven roasted peppers that I made. I found the process actually to be quite difficult, and I'm not sure that I would repeat it. The flavor is really good in these peppers. I use them for a bunch of different things. I chop them up and mix them in eggs or pizzas, or I've put them in some different like soups and stuff that I've made, and the flavor's really good, but they were a lot of work. Luckily, I have quite a bit here, so I don't think that we'll need any of those for a really long time. But I made those in the spring of 2021. I got a really good deal on a whole case of red peppers, so that's what I did with those. All right, moving down here. Let's see, this is a bunch of random things. This is apple pie filling. This might be my last one. We definitely go through a lot of this. I need to do more of that this year. This is a jar of cider. You'll see I have some more of that in a little bit here. We bought a cider press this year, or last year I should say, and canned up a whole bunch of cider to last us the whole winter, so it's really yummy and just a really cool thing to do. I've never done that before. This is just a jar of honey. I have a couple more, got one more here. I like to be well stocked on my honey, and I get this from a local place that has beehives, and we really love it, so I like to have that stocked. I will get way more of that before this summer. I do not use any granulated sugar in my canned goods. I use all honey and just a really light syrup in all of my jellies and in my fruit. So, and I use all of her honey in that stuff. So I will need to stock up before summer comes again. Let's see, here we've got 2 jars of pickles left from 2020. We absolutely love pickles, so every time we finish a jar in the fridge, I always have to grab another one and put it in there right away. I make all of my pickles with apple cider vinegar. I know that a lot of people that have tried them, they are super strong, but we really like really strong sour pickles. I put a little garlic in the bottom, some dill, and then apple cider vinegar, and we absolutely love them. This is just a bag of, I did some freeze-dried mandarin oranges, and I'm running out of jars, but I didn't have enough jars to store them all in, so the kids are just eating these out of the bag right now. Okay, so there's my other jar of honey. This is a big jar of blueberries. I think, yep, that is from just this past year, so we don't need to use it up. I dehydrated a ton of blueberries this year. I got a really good deal on blueberries, so we decided to put up as many as we possibly could in different ways, because that's just something we can't get around here in the winter. So I dehydrated a whole bunch and I canned a whole bunch. I made a bunch into jelly. I was super excited about these because I was like, oh, I'm going to add these into pancakes and everything. And I end up going for the canned ones like this way more than I do the dried ones. So it's good to know for future years. This was a lot of work because they took a lot of time to dry. I'd really like to try them in the freeze dryer and see how those do and maybe make like a blueberry powder to flavor some stuff. But either way, this is something that we need to use up. This is some dried potato. It's actually dried sweet potato that I did. That needs to get used up. This is dried cauliflower. That needs to get used up. Kale, broccoli leaves. This doesn't belong here. Oh, those probably are carrot tops though. Dried carrot tops, you can use those like an herb and sprinkle on stuff. And this is some more dried broccoli leaves here. I just mix this stuff into stir fry just as like an extra green. I don't know, like drying them is not hard. I don't mind doing it at all. But what I might do this next year, once we've used up this stuff, is dry it and then powder it and then put it in the jars, because I'll be able to store a whole lot more in the jars and we're going to use it the same way. So I think that's what I'll do just to save on jars, because they're so hard to come by now. And then these are some canned jars of lemon peel that I dehydrated. We actually use this quite a bit. Whenever a recipe calls for lemon peel, I always add some of this. So we've got some jars of that there. All right, down to the bottom shelf in here, we've got, this is some more cider. Not sure why that's in here, but a couple more jars of cider. And then there's 2 jars here. And this is my vanilla extract that is in process right now. It's been in here for maybe about 2 months already, so I will leave it in here for at least another month before I start using it. I make this with vegetable glycerin, and I do have the recipe for that over on the blog, so I'll link to that below too. It's super easy. We get vanilla beans in bulk through the co-op that we own, and yeah, I decided to make, last time when I made vanilla beans, I made 2 pint jars and it did not last me very long, or vanilla extract. So this time I made 2 quart jars. So hopefully that'll last me for quite a while since it takes so long to make. All right, here's some jars of some beef stew that I canned up. This is from 2020, so it needs to get used up. This is beef stew and it's got green beans and it's got sweet potatoes and carrots in it. I think canned soup just kind of looks gross in general, but it's actually really good. So we need to just keep using that up. We just have a couple of those. I think that is what is behind it as well. And then we've got some peaches here. These are still, I think, from 2020. So there's just a couple jars. I did a ton of peaches this year, and we just have these, just very few jars left from last year. I feel like the spiced peaches are from this past year, but they say 2020 on the top, so I must be wrong. But anyway, I make just a plain peach, and then I make a spiced peach, which is basically the same thing, just with some cinnamon and stuff added. And we really like those, actually maybe better than these peaches. So just because they're just a little bit different. But either way, peaches are like gold around here in the winter. I think every canner knows that. Here's 1 jar of tomato soup that I made this last year. Yep. I can't remember how many of these I made. And I think this recipe was also from the Ball Blue Book. But my kids love it, and we use it for lunches during school, and I'll make up some of the soup and then make them like a grilled cheese sandwich to go with it. So I just have 1 jar in here, and then the rest is in where I have the rest of my quart jars stored. So that is something, I haven't really made a lot of soups until just this past couple years, and I really like having it around now, especially for those school lunches for the kids. So I'm gonna keep doing that, I think, for the next couple years. These are just some more peaches. These are pears. These are from just the last year. Oh, we got a seed in there. I did not can any pears in 2020. I could not find any good deals on them, but I did this year, and they turned out absolutely beautiful. I'm really happy with them. We have not broken into them yet. I'm trying really hard to save them because I didn't do a ton of them, and so this will be a treat. I'm sure we'll break into some here pretty soon, because we're getting to the point in winter where it's really hard to find anything that tastes good at the grocery store. So, okay, and then this is just another thing of cherries, but this one is a quart. There's some of those dried mandarin oranges. They taste interesting. I'm new to the freeze drying thing, so I don't know, they kind of taste like powdered orange juice or something, but everybody really seems to like them. This is one batch in my freeze dryer made 2 quart jars, and this bag up here. So, and I think more than that actually, but we took some and shared them as a Christmas snack with our family. So, and then these are some freeze-dried peas that I did. I just wanted to try a vegetable because I hadn't tried one yet. They turned out really super good, and I got one batch, made these 2 quart jars, and then one of those Mylar bags that I have up there on that shelf. So that was pretty cool. I got these for really cheap. They were just frozen at the grocery store and on sale. Oh, and I see a couple more jars of the apple pie filling back here, which will be great. It means we can make some more apple crisp and apple pie. And that's another jar of cherries. Okay, so that is the jars that I have in my pantry. This is stuff that either needs to be used, or I put just a couple of the newer things on the shelves, like the ketchup that I know that we're going to use all the time anyway. So this is kind of more my grab and go area. And now I'm going to show you where I have the rest of the stuff stored. Okay, so we are in the dining room now, and I have this really big cupboard thing that my husband and his brother built for me. It's kind of our storage for the entire house because I don't have like linen closets or anything like that. So use it for a ton of things, but I needed to use it for some of my canned goods because I just don't have enough space for them in the pantry. So in here we have some dried cabbage. I add this into stir fry. It's a really good way to preserve cabbage for a really long time if you don't need it to be fresh. And then this is where there is a ton of jelly, and this one is full of it too. My son broke the door off there the other day. This is the jelly that I made this year. We're trying to leave that all in here, and like I said, this is full of jelly too. We're trying to leave that all in here for now because we want to use up the jelly from that I made in 2020 first before we break into some of this. I think we've tried a couple jars just because I have some different flavors that I made this year instead, but we're trying to use up the stuff in the pantry first. So this is my extra stock of jelly. And then over here, along with a couple game boards, we've got some sweet potatoes that I canned up. I did those 2 years ago. I thought they'd be super useful. They're not, so they have kind of been sitting in here, and they do need to be used up, so they actually need to go in the pantry. This box, if I remember right, is full of some more peach puree and some pizza sauce. I need to put some more of that in the pantry because we've been using it quite often. And then there's a box below that filled with the same thing as well. This is all stuff that I canned this year, so we're not super eager to use it up yet unless we really need it. And then on top here, looks like we've got a couple jars of green beans. I didn't can very many pints of green beans because usually when we eat green beans, we'll eat a whole quart for our family. And then this is some chili that I canned up this year. We've been actually using this quite a bit, just like the other soups. And not as a chili, we kind of make a, I'm not sure what you'd call it, like a chili chip cheese bowl thing. So we put some like the corn chips on the bottom of a bowl, and then we warm this up, put that on the top, add some cheese. My husband puts sour cream on top of that, and the kids really like that for their lunch sometimes. So this was a really cool thing that I've never canned chili before, so now I know that we really use it a lot. So I've got a couple cases of canned chili in here that I did, which has been awesome for those easy lunches. Now in here, I've got a bunch of jars of, this is the apple cider that we made with our press. I think I ended up with, I want to say 20 quarts of apple cider, so that's pretty cool. We are not huge juice drinkers, but We love having the apple press now because we can get really good prices on apples or get them for free. And so yeah, making cider is really cool. And this is a whole nother cupboard of jellies and spreads from, should all be from this year. Here's a strawberry, blueberry, lemon. Come back here for apricot. I made a ton of apricot preserves. We used this for our sweet and sour sauce, and I showed that in my last video where I showed you what we eat in a day, but that's what we use this for, and we use a lot of it. So I canned up a lot of it. Over here is probably more apricot. I think there's a little bit of peach jelly. Down here at the bottom, there's some more of those canned cherries that I need to keep using, so those actually need to get moved to the pantry. And then at the bottom of this stack is some more of my dill relish, and that is from this last year, so it doesn't need used. I need to use what's in the pantry first, but you can see that it goes way back there, so we have jelly for a really long time. Oh, I see something else back here. I don't know if I can pull that. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, move that back side of the way, and you can see back here, this is a peach salsa that I made this year. It's something that I hadn't done before, but I had a bunch of peppers, and I had a bunch of peaches, and I had a bunch of tomatoes. So we made up this peach salsa, and my husband absolutely loves it. It is a great little snack for him. So that was kind of fun to do something different for that. So here is all the stuff that's in here. Like I said, mostly a lot of jellies, a lot of preserves, a lot of stuff that we use to make sauces and things. So there's quite a bit of relish in here too, but we'll let that marinate for a little while yet and make it really good and strong before we need to eat that and use up in the pantry first. All right, I'm gonna take you over to the last place where I have canned goods stored, and then we'll be done with our tour. All right, I would like to welcome you to the cupboard under our stairs. We live in a relatively small house for a family, so I wanted to make use of every space possible. And I felt like this cupboard was perfect for storing canned goods because it stays really nice and cool down here, and it's really nice and dark. So this is where I keep my pickles, and these are all from 2021. So we haven't had to break into them yet because we're still using up the ones from 2 years ago. I'm not sure what this is. Oh, this is some blueberry syrup. So like I said earlier, got a really good deal on blueberries, so I bought a ton of them, and some of it I made blueberry syrup with. Alright, my camera is trying to tell me that it is overheating, so I am going to try to wrap up this tour. Anyway, like I said, this is blueberry syrup. We'll use that on pancakes the same way that we do the whole canned blueberries. These are, I did pickle slices, whole pickles. There's a lot. This goes, let's see, this is at least 3 feet back. And this is where, like I said, all my pickles are hiding in here. There's a couple random jars of beans up here for some reason, and whatever this guy is doing over here. And then down here, this is where I stored all of my excess quart jarred stuff, and then there is some pints on this side. This helps so I know where everything is at when I'm looking for it, when I'm looking for a jar. There's no quart jars in that other extra storage that I just showed you, so the rest of it's down here, and I am not going to pull all of it out because it's a lot of work to put it back in. We try to layer it so that we've got the good variety up in the front, but this is 2 boxes deep that way. So here we've got, this is some more of the canned pears. This is all that I did here. And then I believe behind that is canned peaches. There's a little bit of peaches here in the front for us to grab from. These are the honey spiced peaches. I think I made more of those this year just because we like them so much. These 2 boxes are pickled beans, and you can see that I've infiltrated this stash quite a bit already because I absolutely love pickled beans. So I did, I think, 24 quarts of pickled beans this year, and I won't be surprised if I eat them all. So anyways, moving on. These are regular green beans down here. I can't remember how many quarts I did of those, but they're all in behind the pickled beans back there. We use these all the time. We're just one of the families that absolutely loves canned green beans. So I did all of my green beans in quarts though this year. Like I said, I did them in pints last year and it was just too small. I had to open 2 jars at a time. This is the applesauce from this year. Like I said, I did quite a bit. It's all cinnamon applesauce because that is our favorite. And we've got this hiding out in here because we don't need it yet. We need to finish up the stuff from 2020 first. So it's hanging out. And then down here, and I believe behind this as well, is some more soup. I've got, this is the beef stew, and then I've got a vegetable soup that I made just this year. The kids really love the vegetable soup. I like to take it out and then add some rice or some little noodles to it. They really like it that way too, and it makes it extra filling. Oh, here's some more of those canned carrots. They need to be pulled out and used. And then I believe back in this corner is more of the canned blueberries, but these are from this last year, so we don't need to be in a big hurry to use them up because I don't know if I'll be able to get a good deal on blueberries again this year. So we've got a nice stash of fruit back there. Up here I think is, yep, this is some more salsa. This is, oh, some more of that plum sauce that was in the pantry to put on top of meat. That's a super heavy jar. If you compare it to like the salsa or the blueberries, it's just really dense. It's almost as thick as the applesauce actually. Looks like there's a little bit more of the canned corn in here. And this is probably, yep, this is the tomato basil. That's some more of that I have in the pantry. We use quite a bit of that just for random things. So I will pull a little bit of this out here, so just in case there's something different in the back and you can get a full view of what we have in here. Okay, I pulled out a couple jars and realized that I was right. It is kind of the same thing in the back of this under the stairs closet that was in the front. There's just more applesauce behind this applesauce in the front, and then below that is it's blueberries and cherries but in quarts, and then this just has a whole bunch of green beans behind it, and these have the peaches behind them. So that is all of the canned jars that I have. In 2020 I did about 700 jars, and then last year in 2021 I did about 800 jars. We eat as many as we can. I have a little bit been in stockpiling mode for the last 2 years, so we maybe haven't eaten up everything that we possibly could from this. We've kind of been holding on to it just in case something happened major with the price of fresh food and stuff, but now we need to start eating it up because, like I said, we like to rotate it about every 3 years. So for 2020, you know, I really don't want to have a ton of that left going into next year. So we've got quite a bit that we need to eat up, but we are just entering January, so we've got lots of very cold winter yet to make good use of all of this really yummy fruit that we canned up. So that'll be really tasty. You know what? I'm just gonna get this out for supper. But there you have it. That is the tour of my canned goods. I hope this gives you some good inspiration for making some different things this year, and maybe you learned about some things that you don't want to try or that you do want to try. I believe that most of the recipes for what I used were in the ball, the blue canning, or ball, I don't know what that book is called, the really thin ball canning book. I think that most of the recipes are in there because a lot of this is really just basic. I like to stick to the basics when it comes to canning stuff, except for like the soups. Those are just a little bit more complicated, but otherwise, when I am in canning mode, I like to get things done because it's a lot of work to do this and manage a bunch of kids at the same time. So we just kind of stick to the basics, but it all works good. And this is brown on the bottom because I used pink salt in my pickles, and so that kind of settles at the bottom, but there's nothing wrong with it. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this tour. Like I said, I hope it gives you some inspiration. I am trying to post some more of these videos now, so be sure and give me your suggestions in the comments, and also be sure and like and subscribe so that you can be informed the next time I post another video. I'll talk to you later, guys.